Okay, Jason Mumo, JM on the fly. It's my bulkhead, craft fur bulkhead brush fly. Beautiful streamer. And this one's weighted. I got a split shot in here. Going to show you how we tie this. Absolute killer for snook. And there's a reason we put that weight in there. I tie them unweighted and I tie them weighted. I put the split shot in because if you got colder water, the snook will be feeding a little bit deeper. So when you put that cast right at the mangroves and the bank, you'll want it to sink. Get down maybe, a foot before you start stripping it. Them snook always look up and feed up, but sometimes they won't come to the surface when the water's cool. So we throw a split shot in here, throw that thing out, let it sink to the level where they're feeding, strip it out of there, and sure as shit you'll have a snook on the line. So let me show you how we tie this. I'm going to zoom in here in the camera. You get a look at this fly. Okay, so you see this beautiful tail. If you look in there, there's a split shot. You can see that split shot in there. And it's just a beautiful weighted fly. Absolute killer. Especially even when you're fishing against the deep banks and you want to throw it and you want it to sink. So anytime you need to get some depth, that's the fly to use. Okay, this is what we use. I'm using an SS, and if you can see that fly there, it's probably about a 3.5 inch minnow. Okay, maybe a 3.5. I'm using an SS15 Gamakatsu size number 2. It's a smaller hook gap. You could use something with a bigger hook gap. You could tie this in any size you want. But that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to use the Vivas. The heavy, what is that stuff? It's kind of like the Goodbroid heavy, something you could put some tension on. And we use that for, I just want to completely coat the shank of the hook back and forth like that with the thread. We're going to use a split shot. We'll put that in first. I got a number 3 split shot, and this split shot here has the little, and I'll show that to you. It's a standard split shot. It has the little tits on it, like you could take it off and remove it. I think that's very important because that's one of the ways I tie it in. I take that and I push it against I put it in this little clip, and I push that in pretty hard. So you can see I just wedge that onto the clip so that when I take it off, that will go right on my hook shank. Just like that. Now I tie it so that the most of the weight, or the 2 little teats, are facing down. I'm looking to have a good 3/8 of an inch up here before the eye, because I need to put another wrap there. So once that's in position, I'm just going to reach in and crimp that shut on the hook. Going to tie back in against it, and I'm going underneath, and if you can see what we're doing, we're wrapping in between those little openers that are already made. And that's why I like to use the removable split shot, because it has them little tits and it's so nice to tie through them. You come through the top. Pretty much anything that you need to do to lash that baby to the hook. But I constantly go underneath and wrap that in. And then we'll just work our way back. I'm going to hit that right away with a little bit of super glue. And if you overdo it, like I always do, so I have way too much super glue on there, and then I just reach in with a tissue and just touch it one time, and that pretty much knocks it down. Make sure everything's aligned so it dries correctly. We don't want that spinning on the shank. The next material will be bucktail. Whatever color you choose, whatever fly whatever flies you're going to be tying, whatever color you want, just pick whatever you like and match your bait. Or I don't have any flash in this fly either. I find these snook just seem not to really care for the flash at all. Plain Jane is the way it's been, so I'm just eliminating the flash altogether. I'll be heading back to Florida here in another week or two, and I just got back, and the snook fishing has been incredible. Now I have this basically calculated so it's the length. You got the shank 1, 2, 3, right about 3, if anything a hair bigger is what I'm looking for. As far as tail, I know a lot of people say 2 shank lengths or whatever, but I want these babies to wiggle. I want some rust. I put that there because I don't want any material going past that. So I use this little piece of metal as my guide, and I tie my bucktail in, just a few strands, right in the back, right up on top, and I throw a under wrap just to hike that up, kind of like you would on a woolly bugger, and let that come right back through like that. Next, take some rooster hackles. This is a nice golden blonde into brown color, which is kind of what I'm trying to do here. See, like a lot of the bait that was in the area was kind of a brown, darker color. Of course, they all will have lighter underbellies, but 3 of them, 3 feathers. I'm going to take them and I'm going to line the tips up. So I will just put the tips and line them up so all the tips are about the same length. And I'm going to just pinch this. And I'm going to lay that right on top, just shy of my marker here. And we'll bring that in and we'll wrap that. And again, I'm holding them feathers and kind of hiking them up, keeping them right on top of the shank of the hook. And we'll tie them in. And there the feathers lay, right above the and that what that bucktail does is not only does it guide the tail, it also helps these feathers from fouling around that hook, which happens when you're throwing these flies underneath the mangroves. You're doing some, I wouldn't say sloppy casting, but very direct, snappy casts, and flies have a tendency to foul when that happens, or when you're doing that. Next material we're going to use is, we're going to take some craft fur. This is the same craft fur like we make the brushes out of. This is the cheapest stuff you could get from like a Joann Fabric, or one of them places. It's not the Select. It's just a cheap craft fur. Longest pieces on it might be 2.5 inches, maybe at the most. And that's pretty much what we're going to kind of steal off of here. So I cut a clump out. I grab it by the butt. I grab just the tips. And I pull out all that under fur. And we are left with a nice little piece like this. All I'm going to use the full length of this. I'm just going to trim off the end so it's square. I'm going to put this up on its side, and I'm going to tie that in on this side, and I'm going to just put my thumb down as I slowly wrap back, and that'll help to display that around that whole side. and then work my way back to the split shot. Just like that, so you can see what that looks like. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And again, color selection is completely up to you. I want the light inside the fly, so as this thing flicks and flashes, you still see that belly, and that's kind of key to me. Again, grabbing the tips, pulling out and removing all the extra garbage. Come to the end, cut it square, tie that in on this side. And again, once you get a couple of wraps on this, like that, then you can leave it go. Just kind of put your finger down on it, and that'll wrap right around. Beautiful. There, now we got that whole thing kind of embraced in craft fur. One other craft fur I'm going to use, and I'm going to put this right on the top because the way I have this set, with the main heaviest lead down, this will ride keel down just like a normal streamer. Not like a clouser, just like a normal streamer. So we come in and we're going to take a little bit of this guy, and I'm going to put that right on the top for a little bit more of a wing. Doing exactly the same thing, just a small amount. Got some beautiful tips in there. I don't like that cut. I'm going to grab another cut. Come in and just cut a nice tight chunk to the bottom. There. We'll grab some of them. This is a neat color. Got black tips on it, so I'm going to grab them black tips. I'm going to comb out all the rest. I'm going to pinch it. I'm going to square up that cut. I'm going to lay this right on top, and again, just by putting your finger there, you could kind of flare that out, and just adds a nice little wing to the whole fly. It's just riding on top there. That also kind of closes the feathers in, so they're kind of locked in between that piece of craft fur and your bucktail. Now we're going to go to our brush. This is a brush that I spin on my dubbing brush maker. It's made out of the same craft fur. It's made out of this craft fur and another one like this that's solid brown. And we're going to go to my craft fur spinning. Well, I'm going to spin it on my brush making tool, so I could you see that I have an old Singer sewing machine that I redid and made a brush maker out of it, and that's how I made this brush. So we'll go to that next, and then I'll come back. Okay, so this is my brush making machine, and we're going to make this brush for these craft fur bulkhead dubbing brush fly. Beautiful Chinook pattern. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking craft fur like this. Going to cut out a little chunk, comb out the worst of the little stuff. And now I went ahead and put this up, and I have a whole row of the brown. And you can see the brown here, but the brown's underneath all this. So I'm just showing you the finishing touches here. And I take this color here. This is like the cheapest craft fur you could get. You pick it up anywhere at a lot of whatever, Joann Fabric, any of them places. It's not long. It's not what you want to work with if you're doing, you know, the big stuff. But this really works good for these bulkheads. Very compact. It's cheap stuff. See this stuff? It's inexpensive. Comes in big sheets. Comes in all different colors. And makes wonderful bulkheads for your small flies. You don't want to be using this stuff for the big flies, but for the small ones it really works out great. And again, I'm just laying that on. Again, remember, there's a layer of brown underneath. And then we are going to put this on top. So again, brown underneath, this on top, and I'm just, like I said, I just slide my scissors underneath, pull out a little bit of a chunk, and then I cut that off low. And that's pretty much the way I handle the material. Now I already have my wire strung up in there, so now it's just a matter of taking this wire, this end of the wire, I'm going to throw a little wax on it, and you should be able to see pretty good there. I think my lighting's alright. I'm going to lay this on, and if you can see where this comes across, I'm going to make sure that this just touches the edges. And you can work that fur. Basically, you can push it back underneath here. I'm looking for just maybe a 1/4 inch or so sticking out towards me on the cut end. And then the other end just leave long. The way it, just full length, you know, the way it comes off of the sheets, which is, I mean, the longest this stuff is, I mean, you might find a 2.5 inch length at the most. Long hair, maybe 3 inch, I don't know, but it's not much. And if there is, there's very few. See how little hair there is up here compared to inside? Okay, so we're ready to spin this. Just going to pinch this here like this, and that's how I make my brushes. I'm going to slowly spin this up. And you just work it. Again, combing it out. You can see all the extra fur that you get. Of course, we got a lot of that out by pre-stringing this. It's really looking good. Nice little brush. And that's exactly what we're looking for the bulkheads. And that is a beautiful little craft fur brush. I come in here and cut that off, and I could show you the finished product. That is the finished product. Gorgeous brush, all ready to go. And that is the brush making part of this fly. And now we're going to take our brush, we're going to tie that in right in behind the split shot. And we're going to wrap this brush right around, and after every wrap, just going to pull out the fibers and comb them out. That was one. This is two wraps. Don't take a whole lot because it's a bulky brush, and we're going to bring that right to the top and then tie it off right behind the split shot. Reach in here. Cut the wire, get rid of our brush. You take a needle nose pliers. You pull this fur back, and you could chase that end of the wire and basically make it, I just rolled it around the hook, that's all I did. Now we're going to tie over top of that. And then come underneath our little pinchers there. Put our thread in front, and we can take this and comb this fly completely out. Beautiful. Beautiful looking fly. We're going to come back to our brush. Again, grab our brush, We're going to tie that in the front. Tie it forward to the eye and tie it the whole way back to against the split shot. Just like that. This is an extremely durable fly. Every material is completely held in by not only the super glue, but they're wrapped in this brush with a wire. Again, we just wrap the brush around. After every wrap, come in with your brush and comb them fibers out. Get another wrap there. We'll work our way up to the front. Another wrap. And it's up to you how much bulkhead you want. I'm going to bring that right to here and I'm going to end that. So I'm going to tie off right behind the eye of the hook. Again, reach in, snip off your wire, get rid of your brush. Again, pull that back and chase that wire so it goes completely crimped around the hook. Then we can wrap over that and form our eye, or our head, I'm sorry. Oh, we're going to form a nice head here. If you have a little fiber, you can just hit it quick. Oh, sometimes you get a little too close with your thread. No big deal. That's why we do this. We could wrap right over top of that. And just start our thread over again. Got a little piece of extra fur there. And we're going to just complete our head. Just like that. Cut off our tag end. Grab our whip finish tool. Finish off the head. And then I go with Bondic on these. These Snook don't have teeth, but what they do have is sandpaper mouths, and they destroy flies if they're not built durable or correct. I come in here with the Bondic, and I'm going to completely coat the threads so we end up with a nice, beautiful coated head. And we'll hit that with the light and harden that. And now we don't have to think about that whatsoever. It's completely hard plastic now. Again, check out your fly, run that comb completely through it and get all the loose fibers out of it. And that, my friend, is the killer. That's the little pike killer right there. Weighted with a split shot in it, all ready to go. It is the JM Bulkhead Craft Fur Brush Minnow. Snook killer. I'm sure it's going to be killer for smallies too this summer on the Susquehanna, but definitely a snook killer. JM on the fly, and I am out of here.